What would you do if, in the middle of your normal day, you came face to face with something you couldn't explain? Not a strange light in the sky, not just a story from a friend of a friend, but a close encounter that left physical evidence behind. In 1964, in the quiet desert town of Socorro, New Mexico, a police officer named Lonnie Zamora stumbled onto a scene that would change UFO history forever. What he saw, and what investigators later found, has never been fully explained. And even today, more than half a century later, his story stands as one of the most credible UFO encounters ever recorded. This is the Lonnie Zamora incident. To understand what happened that day, we first need to know a little about the man at the center of it all. Lonnie Zamora wasn't a thrill seeker, or a storyteller, or someone who went looking for attention. He was a police officer in the small town of Socorro, New Mexico, respected, reliable, and known for being level-headed. People trusted Lonnie, and that's an important detail to keep in mind as this story unfolds. It was April 24, 1964, just before 6 p.m. Zamora was on patrol when he spotted a car speeding through town. He turned on his siren and gave chase. The pursuit took him toward the outskirts of Socorro, where the desert landscape stretches out wide and empty. Dust kicked up behind his car as he closed in, but before he could catch the driver, something unexpected pulled his attention away. From the distance came a loud, almost explosive roar, followed by a flash of light in the sky. Whatever it was enough to make him abandon the chase and head toward the source. And that decision would lead him straight into one of the strangest encounters of the 20th century. As Zamora drove closer to the source of the strange roar and flash, he noticed movement ahead. At first, he thought it might be a small shack or maybe even a flipped car. But as he pulled up to the rise, what came into view was unlike anything he had ever seen. Sitting in the desert was a white, egg-shaped object, smooth, oval, and no more than 15 feet long. It had no visible doors or windows, no wings or propellers. Just a strange red symbol on the side, something Lonnie would later describe as an oval with a vertical line running through it, with small arches coming out on each side. And then he saw them. Two small figures dressed in what looked like white coveralls, standing beside the craft. At first, Zamora thought they were children. But as he watched, they moved quickly, as if startled by his approach, and disappeared behind the object. Zamora didn't get much time to process. Within seconds, the craft roared to life. A deafening sound filled the air as a blue flame shot from beneath the object, blasting the desert floor with heat and dust. Startled and afraid, Zamora ran for cover, expecting an explosion. But instead, the object rose, slowly at first, then with astonishing speed. It lifted off the ground, cleared the nearby desert shrubs, and shot away into the sky. Within moments, it was gone. When the craft vanished into the distance, Zamora was left standing in the settling dust, shaken and unsure of what he had just witnessed. But the story doesn't end there, because what remained at the scene would make this case one of the most compelling in UFO history. The desert floor where the object had sat was scorched. Bushes and scrub were burned, and the sand itself looked singed by intense heat. Investigators later measured the burn pattern and found it to be consistent with something blasting down with tremendous force, far beyond what a campfire or car engine could produce. Even more intriguing were the marks. For clear depressions in the soil, arranged in a rectangular pattern, as if some kind of landing gear had pressed into the earth. Each impression was sharp, clean, and spaced evenly apart, exactly what you'd expect from a solid craft resting on four legs. Other officers arrived at the scene shortly after Zamora's call, and they too saw the damage. There was no question that something had been there. This wasn't just a vision or a trick of the light, the land itself carried the evidence. News of the encounter spread quickly. Within hours, state police, local authorities, and even the US Army were on site, documenting what Lonnie Zamora had found. The burned brush, the landing marks, the strange symbol Zamora described, all of it was carefully photographed and measured. The case eventually landed in the hands of Project Blue Book, the official U.S. Air Force program tasked with investigating UFO reports. And this wasn't just another sighting of lights in the sky. This was a close encounter from a respected police officer, with physical evidence to back it up. That made it a case they couldn't easily dismiss. Dr. J. Allen Hynek, the scientific consultant for Project Blue Book, a man who was usually skeptical in his early years, personally reviewed the incident. After speaking with Zamora and studying the site, Hynek concluded that Lonnie was highly credible and that the evidence simply didn't match any conventional explanation. The Air Force investigated thoroughly. They checked for military aircraft tests, experimental vehicles, even pranks pulled by local students. But nothing lined up. There were no exercises scheduled in the area that day. No reports of helicopters or prototypes that could match Zamora's description. And as for the supposed prank, the sheer scale of the burn marks and the craft's roaring departure made that theory unlikely at best. In the end, Project Blue Book did something it rarely did, it left the case classified as unidentified. Not weather balloons, not swamp gas, not hysteria. Just, unexplained. The Lonnie Zamora case didn't just make local headlines, it spread nationwide. Newspapers across the country ran the story of the small-town police officer who saw something extraordinary in the New Mexico desert. For many readers, the combination of a credible witness, physical evidence, and an official Air Force investigation gave this case a weight that most UFO stories never carried. Over time, the incident found its way into UFO books, documentaries, and countless debates among researchers and skeptics. Even popular culture drew inspiration from Zamora's encounter. Elements of the egg-shaped craft and strange symbol can be seen echoed in television, films, and later UFO reports. Perhaps what kept the story alive wasn't just the bizarre nature of the sighting, but who Lonnie Zamora was. He wasn't looking for fame, and he never tried to profit from what he saw. In fact, he was reluctant to even talk about it after the initial investigation. To this day, many point to his honesty and credibility as the reason this case continues to stand out in UFO history. So what really happened in Socorro that spring evening in 1964? A strange craft, two mysterious figures, and physical evidence scorched into the desert floor, all witnessed by a police officer with a spotless reputation. The Air Force couldn't explain it. Skeptics couldn't debunk it. And Lonnie Zamora himself never wavered in what he reported. For some, the answer will always be a secret military project, for others, a clever prank, and for many, it remains one of the strongest pieces of evidence that we may not be alone. In the end, the Lonnie Zamora incident stands as more than just another UFO sighting. It's a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary encounters don't happen to conspiracy theorists or thrill seekers, but to ordinary people, just going about their day. And if a small-town cop in New Mexico could stumble onto something like this, who's to say it couldn't happen again? Alright, that's gonna wrap up the story of the Lonnie Zamora incident. Thanks for hanging out with me and watching all the way through, I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more UFO stories like this one, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. It helps me out a ton, and it lets me know you want more content like this. Thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next one.